clock, bottom right.
It's behind your water bottle.
Oh, that's why I can't play.
See, this phone says 6:01.
5:59:30.
Yeah, same thing. Our clocks must be in the same phones.
It's just.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Is everybody ready?
Annie, sit down so you can stand up again.
No, I stand up specifically so I don't have to sit down and then stand. I'm in the corner.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. May we have roll call?
Certainly may. Good evening, everyone. All right, Councilmember Kelly.
Present.
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Perkins. Here. Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Best.
Here.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Here.
And Mayor Croft.
Here. Introductions, presentations, and proclamations. A is a presentation of Outstanding Citizen Award by Chino Valley Police Department Chief Wynn.
Mayor and Council, when I arrived almost 17 years ago, one of the first things I noticed was the great support the police department has from the community. And as we know, that doesn't occur all around the country. Just pick up the paper any day and you'll see that a lot of places they don't have the support we have. But something else I noticed is there's been one gentleman that throughout my whole time here has been 100% supportive of our department. Every year after budget, he asks me, is there anything you didn't get, anything you need? He always steps up for that. When we were trying to raise money for one of our officers that had a family medical situation, he jumped in, took over the auctions for us because we had no idea what we were doing. And this goes on, excuse me, year in, year out, day in, day out. So I just wanted to come up and publicly recognize Dave Mazie for all he does for the police department and for law enforcement. All right, Dave. So we just got Dave a little something to put on his desk. I was going to get him a picture of me, but I'm saving that for you, Mayor, when you retire.
Well, that'll mess things up.
So I'll just read it for you folks. It says, Dave Mazie, for your ongoing support of the Chino Valley Police Department, excuse me, I can't even see without my glasses. Your generous contributions have helped ensure the safety and ability of our officers to do their jobs, 1990 to present. Thank you from the entire department, past and present.
Good job.
Yay, Dave.
Yes.
I'm going to get out of the way. Mr. Mazie would like to say a few words.
Dave, and from the town council, thank you for the work that you've done for the town.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've been a resident of this community for 29 years now. When we moved here, there weren't any traffic lights, very few stop signs, almost no paved roads, no chain stores other than Safeway had just opened, and this, we thought, was heaven. And this 29 years in this community has proven that to be a fact. I do the things I do for my community because I think that a business that makes a living in this community should reinvest in this community. And all of this is possible because of my lovely wife of 46 years, my two loving daughters, both their husbands, and all of my grandchildren. With their support, it enables me to reinvest in our town. And I look at the police department and all the officers involved there, both present and past, as being family members. We all have to look out for them. They stand between us and evil, and they have done an excellent job protecting us. And my thank you, Chief Wynn. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, and I hope to continue this effort for many, many years.
Cool. Thank you, Dave.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you
Dave.
very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, let's go on to the next item, which is call to the public. Call to the public is an opportunity for the public to address the council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the council that is not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. Individuals are limited to speak for 3 minutes. The total time for call to the public may be up to 18 minutes per meeting. Council action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, scheduling the matter for further consideration, and decision at a later date, or responding to criticism. Do we have anyone that would like to speak at call to the public? Hearing none, no.
He's gonna hit the override.
Hearing none, we'll go on to response to the public. Response to the public is an opportunity for the mayor to inform the public about how town officials address matters raised during the call to the public at a previous meeting. Item A, concern expressed on social media pages regarding possible criminal activity on a certain property. Chief Wynn.
Mayor and council, there was some discussion at the last council meeting about a property next to the Chamber of Commerce on Highway 89 and what may or may not be going on down there. I can tell you that about 95% of what is on social media is not true. There is a pending criminal matter down there, and there's also a civil matter dealing with an eviction. Both of those are ongoing, so I can't really get into the specifics, but both my department as well as code enforcement are well aware of it, and it is being dealt with.
All right. Thank you very much. Item B, 2 complaints by certain property owners unable to develop due to issues with utility connections. Good evening, Frank. This is Frank Marbury. He's the Public Works Director and Town Engineer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I've got a couple slides on this, Jamie, if we can get to them too. We've got a statement prepared by staff and legal counsel. Just going to read it and kind of go through if we could. Yes. Okay. If we could maybe ask the attorney, can you mute your microphone? I think it's feeding back on our audio.
Oh, I can mute that.
Okay. All right. All right. These properties, Mr. Meldy and Roberts discussed during the call to the public on the August 13th, 2019 Town Council meeting, are parcels in the process of being split on the south side of Perkinsville Road. The original parcel was 15 acres owned by the Rotarings. It's highlighted in blue here. Who received rezoning of the property from AR5 to SR1 on July 24th, 2018. Since the rezoning of the 8-acre portion of the property has been split several times, it's actually 15 acres. The Rotarings currently hold approximately 1.5 acres. Well, this property was split into 7.5 acres. They sold the 7.5 acres to Mr. Roberts in January of 19. Mr. Roberts then split the 7.5 acres into 3 parcels, which is shown by the blue, green, and red in March of 2019. He retained 1 parcel, sold 1 to Mr. Meldy, and sold another to First Class Real Estate Services, represented by Mr. Costello. Mr. Costello then split the First Class Real Estate parcel into 3 approximately 1-acre lots, which shows the current lot configuration here. Mr. Meldy has expressed the intention of doing the same to his parcel, which is parcel L. All the parcels are shown on this attached map. So Mr. Costello was the first to request a building permit for his 3 parcels, N, P, and Q. These parcels are immediately adjacent to Perkinsville Road. He was informed the water and sewer would need to be extended to serve his 3 parcels in accordance with Town Code 51.060. The extension would also make water and sewer available to Mr. Meldy. Mr. Meldy then came in and inquired about permits. He was informed the water and sewer would need to be extended to Mr. Roberts' property line in the same manner. And the water and sewer mains would be extended to the edge of his property. Mr. Roberts then came in. He was informed the extension across his property would be needed to serve the rotary parcel in the same manner as required from Costello and Meldy. Subsequent to Mr. Roberts inquiring, Mr. Costello withdrew his permit. He didn't actually file a permit. He just never filed it. He came in with the intention of filing it, but he never actually filed the permit. Mr. Roberts disagrees with the water and sewer extension requirements. He believes the town is prohibited from requiring water and sewer extensions by Town Code 51.135, commonly known as the 400-foot rule. Mr. Roberts is misinterpreting the Town Code 51.135 as prohibiting the town from requiring water and sewer extensions to the recently created parcels within the former rotary property. Indeed, Town Code 51.135 requires new construction on lots under 1 acre to connect to the town sewer if the property is within 400 feet of a sewer line. However, in light of other provisions of the Town Code, and the fact that the requirements of 51.135 do not address water connections, this section cannot be read as a prohibition of requiring water or sewer extensions to parcels that are larger than 1 acre. According to 51.056B, quote, in new subdivisions, shopping centers, industrial tracts, or other similar developments, the developer shall furnish and install to town specifications all water mains, valves, service lines, sewer lines, manholes, and required appurtenances for each type of main extension within the designated area of development, end quote. The land divisions resulting from the rezoning of the rotary property could result as many as 15 lots, which we showed a theoretical concept to the right here, which are clearly within the description of other similar developments referenced in the 51.056B. When read in conjunction with the town's general policy for water and sewer extensions in 51.058, it is clear that development of new homes like those proposed for the former rotary property are intended to be connected to the town's water and sewer system. Moreover, Mr. Roberts' argument that also ignores the provisions of 51.060, which require a property lying adjacent to town and water sewer main to extend such main to the farthest edge of the property to serve properties adjacent to it. The clear purpose of this section is to ensure that the end of the available water and sewer mains is always extended upon development of a lot or parcel. When Mr. Costello requested a building permit for his 3 newly created parcels, he triggered the obligation to extend the water and sewer mains south from Perkinsville Road to the southernmost edge of this property, or the southeast corner of the 3rd parcel. That would be parcel Q. The same obligation applies to the Meldy and Roberts properties as they continue the development to the south. Mr. Roberts' misapplication of 51.135 would have the effect of allowing developers to avoid an obligation they had when it was 1 parcel by simply dividing the property. Adding additional properties to the town without connecting to the water or sewer system is contrary to the town's policies. Additionally, applying Mr. Roberts' interpretation would disproportionately burden those property owners closer to the town's main and water lines by allowing their neighbors to avoid paying a share of the water and sewer infrastructure costs. The town code should not be interpreted in a manner that favors one property owner over another neighboring property owner in the same zoning district. The solution. The town code recognizes the challenges that the extension policy may create for a single developer constructing facilities at a distance from the town's existing water and sewer lines. Accordingly, 51.059 provides the approach main mechanism for developers to receive reimbursement for the water and sewer extension costs from other benefiting property owners. The approach main process set forth in 51.01061 provides for various approaches to fairly allocate among benefiting landowners the costs necessary for water and sewer infrastructure. While the primary focus of 51.061 relates to the arrangements between developers, 51.061B2 provides an alternate route for the town to construct the water line and then assess the cost to the benefiting property owners. Rather than have each property owner responsible for engineering and construction of water extensions, the town engineer approached the council in the July study session to have the extensions become a town project. This would save costs through economies of scale and allow the property owners only to pay for their respective portions of the extensions. If the construction contract is approved by town council, the water and sewer improvements necessary to serve the new parcels created from the rotary property will be completed as a town capital improvement project. In conjunction with the town's construction project, the town council may adopt a resolution approving a line charge in accordance with 51.061B2. All property owners would be notified of the town's expectation that prior to issuance of a building permit for any particular parcel within the development, the parcel's pro rata share of the water and sewer construction costs must be paid to the town. We believe this approach is the most equitable solution. The costs for the extensions of the water and sewer are estimated to be in the neighborhood of $260,000. If prorated for each of the 15 acres potentially served, the shared cost per acre is anticipated to be about $17,000 per acre. In addition, typical connection fees average $10,000 per building for water and sewer. The total of $27,000 per acre is higher than the reported cost that has been reported to us anecdotally of about $20,000 for the combination of wells and septics. Of course, that would depend on the system that's put in. Council resolution, as previously mentioned, shall set the exact line charge amounts. The contractor has estimated the construction could be completed as early as the end of October. And what I would also, with the council's permission, is we intend to bring this to the next council meeting on the 24th with actual costs from the contractor for council to discuss and act on as they see fit for both the construction project and what amount, if any, for line charge cost.
Question? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Response to the public. Okay, that's the next steps that we have. I know you have some issues.
No, because it's a response to the public,
Yeah.
it's not
We
a
can't-
discussion
we can't
item,
a
correct?
discussion item, yes.
Correct.
So,
Okay.
has this been through P and Z?
The rezone already went through P and
But
Z.
this is not,
This isn't a P and Z issue.
not a P and Z.
It's not a land use
Yeah.
issue. But council will have complete discussion over it next week, or in 2 weeks, on how you want to handle this, so. Okay, I mean, you could even say completely no to it being a town project. That's
Are
within
you
your
gonna
purview.
give us some, here's your alternatives?
Yes, we will give you some
So we can-
options and also all the
options?
costs, so that you'll have something to choose
Some
from, and you
costs.
guys can decide from there what you think
Okay.
is appropriate or nothing.
Okay,
So, it's your choice.
all right, thank you very much. Let's go on to item C. Concerned by medical marijuana farmer about hemp growing near marijuana farms and possible issues with cross-pollination. Several members of the public business community that grow and cultivate marijuana attended the town council meeting. One of the group that attended, Mr. Perry Stone, spoke to the council about hemp, an agriculture crop recently approved by the state to be grown, and its potential effect on marijuana, specifically a potential problem for cross-pollination. Staff has discussed with Mr. Perry and other growers, cultivators, the potential issue of cross-pollination between hemp and marijuana. However, staff believes that hemp is an agriculture product, and as such, the town should not adopt regulations placing additional burdens on this product above what is required of other similar agriculture products. Further, no legal precedence has been set with regard to regulations passed to protect marijuana from hemp. Staff would advise property owners to do what they can to protect their investment in their property instead of asking the town to create laws that would restrict the growth of another agriculture product. Ultimately, it is the staff's opinion that the legality of any such regulation would be questionable. Unless council directs staff differently, staff considers this matter closed. Okay, let's go on. Let's go on to 5 current events, summaries, and reports. This item is for information only. The mayor and any council member or staff member may present a brief summary or report of current events. If listed below, there may also be a presentation of information requested by the mayor and council, and questions may be answered. No action will be taken. And A is status reports by mayor and council. I would like to take the time to thank everyone that was involved in Territorial Days. There's so many people involved that I can't really enumerate all of them, but the Lions, I think, hit it. Councilman Best was in charge of that. He did a super job. All the service clubs in town were involved in it. Chamber of Commerce, the Lionesses, and so many other people, staff themselves. We had a whole group of staff people involved. It worked out very well and was received by all. So thank all of you very, very much from the town council. We appreciate it. Anybody on this side?
No, sir. Nothing.
Town manager?
Sure, thank you, Mayor and Council. I have a couple items I'd like to discuss. First off, we have a study session next Tuesday evening at 5 p.m. And so we'll have some snacks here for people. We have a mayor-manager community outreach on Thursday, September 19th at 8 a.m. at Overflow Coffee. We'll be featuring 2 staff members, Joshua Cook and Maggie Teidebeck. We have an economic development subcommittee meeting scheduled right now for September 24th at 4 p.m. unless we hear differently from the chair. And I wanted to mention to the council at the League of Cities, I attended a session on the First Amendment auditors. One of the presenters there is the communications manager for Queen Creek. She has agreed, along with her public information officer, to come to Chino Valley and train our employees free of charge, and any council member or people who are involved with our public bodies on the correct way to respond to the First Amendment auditors. It's kind of becoming a thing. We will have the training scheduled for mid-October. If you can't make one of the training sessions, we will be filming it, and you'll be able to view it later if you'd like to.
Could you kind of explain what a First Amendment auditor is?
So it's kind of this wave that's going across the country with people who come and film things that they call themselves First Amendment auditors, and they bring their cell phones and cameras and they try to get you to respond in an inappropriate fashion. They tend to do it to police departments, but they also do it to Parks and Rec departments. They'll walk in on classes that are being held and things that are in the public forum. They'll follow you out to your cars, and unfortunately people sometimes respond inappropriately and will say things like, "You're not allowed in here," and they are. So we'll be training on when they are allowed, what their rights are, so that we can respond appropriately, because what they end up doing is throwing these up on YouTube and making money. So we want to try and make sure that we respond correctly and we don't end up hitting the news.
Good, thank you.
Does that result in the ejection of you off the council? I'll sign up.
I hope so. Consent agenda, we're going to consent agenda. All those items listed below are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Any council member may request to remove an item from the consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. Item A, consider it. Yes, sir.
I'd like to pull 6B.
Okay, let's pull
Separate.
6B, and let's ask, are there any other items other than 6B that you'd like pulled?
I'd like to pull 6C.
6B and C will be pulled. Any other items? Do we have an
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A, D, and E.
Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's go on to item 6B, and I'll read it. Consideration possible action to designate the customer service manager as the person authorized to take the following actions pursuant to ARS Title IV related to liquor licensing, approval or deny application for current events licenses, including extension of premises patio permits, farm winery festivals or fair licenses, and craft distillery festivals or fair licenses. Make recommendation to the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control regarding application for control, and if the customer service manager is not available, to designate the business liquor license technician, town clerk, and police chief in that order to exercise such authority. We will have the town clerk come up and explain what this is all about.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. What this item is all about is going way back, a couple of decades and before that. The town council used to approve every type of liquor license that came to the town, whether it was a permanent business license, a change of the names of the people owning control of a corporation, a simple one-day special event liquor license, and a one-day extension of patio permit. And then about 15 years ago or so, a lot of councils just started giving that authority to their staff. It wasn't statutory, but it kind of became a thing amongst most of the cities and towns in the state. So last year, the legislature actually decided to codify that. And so a year ago, you all voted to designate my department as the department that had the authority to approve these specific types of liquor licenses. And we had a meeting with staff not too long ago, and we decided that because liquor licenses are often tied to business licenses, that it made sense for the customer service department to take over the oversight of these liquor licenses. So that's really all we're asking you to do, is to change the department that has oversight. Are there any questions?
My question in this
Okay.
is, as I've read through this, I don't see that there is an appeals process in place. Is there?
I believe an appeal process, if you were to deny a license, for what process? What part of the
If-
process would there be an
If
appeal?
somebody comes in and applies,
Mhm.
then whoever's on the list here of people that
Mhm.
can either approve or deny it and I don't see it right offhand, it could be denied.
Yes.
So what is the appeals process for that individual that's applying?
Um,
Is there one in place?
Basically, it goes to the State Department of Liquor Licenses and Control. And anytime we hear rumbles that a liquor license, that one of our staff members or our council has issues with a liquor license, we immediately contact the state, and they work with us. They'll work with the applicant to come up with whatever the best solution is. Because there have been times when we've come close to denying because they just didn't give us the proper information, that sort of thing. But we've always managed to work it out before it came to council. But that's where the appeal process, it goes to the state.
So the
liquor
final
board.
authority on this is the State
State
Liquor Board? not-
Because
not
you all
us.
can deny a liquor license and they can still approve it. So they have that authority to do that.
Okay. It was just, if staff
Oh.
said no,
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure there was something in place that they,
Oh, yeah.
have the ability to appeal it.
Right, and
So-
we take it to you, so staff might give you that opinion that staff wants to deny it.
Okay.
And then the person could always take it to the state. Yes, yes.
Okay, as I understand this, having gotten a fair amount of these liquor licenses and am on some license, this is one link in the chain to get a completion of that license. Right now, this sounds like what we're saying is the end. That's not it. Once the town approves it, then it must be taken to down to state
Yeah.
and cleared by them. So this is
Yeah.
not an end all to the thing. This
Right.
is just our internal proceedings I think, of who's gonna sign it.
And we don't even approve it. All we can do is make a recommendation.
Correct.
So, or in some cases, we take no action because that's how the statute's worded.
Jamie,
Yes.
is this for all or just temporary liquor
It's,
license?
the list is in there. It's for the special event licenses, the farm winery, festival and fair licenses, the craft distillery, and then you all just approved an acquisition of control. That's the only non-license that's in the group, and that's, again, that has to do with corporations. And anytime somebody owning more than 10% of the shares, there's a change, they have to go through this process. But we don't have to hold a formal public hearing or anything like that for those anymore.
Can we get an opinion from our attorney? Hello? Trish?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here.
She had to unmute.
Is this common? Is there any problems with this that you see?
Is this common in terms of the delegation of the authority?
For licenses, liquor license?
I wanted to make sure I understood your question. If the question is it common for council to delegate this to a clerk? That's common. Customer service manager, it kind of, I think a lot of cities and towns who are smaller may not have that, but I think that's within the realm of staff management. But it's still kind of new because a lot of cities and towns before had council and the statute was just amended. But it seems to be something most, I think, clerks have been talking about. There's been a lot of discussions on the listservs. So I think this is going to become more of the norm to free up some council resources in the recommendation process.
Okay. But if we have to have a public hearing, it does come to the council, right?
Yes, if the type of, it's,
Yes.
none of that's gonna change, so a
that
liquor
process-
license for a bar or a restaurant, is all gonna come through you still.
These are mainly temporary.
Yeah, these are like I said, the only one that isn't temporary is that acquisition of control, but those seem to happen a lot, so they made it administrative.
So Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept consent agenda item 6B.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's go on to item C. Consideration of possible action to remove Gary Warren from the Board of Adjustment, appoint Billy James to the Board of Adjustment to complete a 3-year term that started August 1st, 2019, and appoint Billy James to the Park and Rec Advisory Board for a 2-year term that started July 1, 2019. Yalla.
I just had one question, and that was, it says Gary Warren has indicated to staff that he does not have enough time to participate. Specifically, do we know, how did he indicate this? Did he tell someone? Did
He spoke with Joanne Brookins, our customer service manager, and Joshua, our development services director, had invited him up for some briefing and to schedule some training, and Gary basically indicated he didn't have time to come up here, but the staff was welcome to go down there to talk with him, that sort of thing. And he just said he was really busy with work and he was out of town a lot. So-
Mr. Warren's a good friend of mine, and he's done a lot for this town. He's done a lot for the community. And I've talked to him a couple of times, too. He's started about 2 or 3 businesses, and he's out of town a lot, and he travels.
Right.
And in these positions, when we schedule one of these meetings, we need to have somebody that can meet this. So I did send him a letter notifying him of what we were going to do tonight. And I have talked to him in the past about him stepping away from this appointment. And I thank him very much for what he's done. It just kind of prohibits us from going on sometimes with what we do. I imagine we'll see more Mr. Warren around, so he's
Oh, yeah.
busy and he's involved in the community. He's really involved in his businesses right now.
He hasn't formally resigned, though, or asked to resign?
No,
So we're removing him and
Yes.
replacing him?
that was the staff recommendation.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept consent agenda C.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank
Let's
you.
go on to action items. The council may vote to recess the public meeting and hold an executive session on any item on this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431-03A3 for the purpose of discussion or consultation for legal advice with the town attorney. Executive sessions are not open to the public. No action may be taken in executive session. Let's go to item A, consideration possible action to approve Heritage Point preliminary plat to subdivide approximately 89.9 acres into the 75 one-acre lots developed in 4 phases. The property is located at .025 miles west of the southwest corner of Road North 1 West and West Road 4 North and north of the Chino Lakes Unit 2 subdivision. Assessors partial number 30613-004X, 30613-120, and 30613-004Z. Mr. Cook, you've changed. Mr. Jaime, glad to have you tonight.
Mr. Lerma.
Lerma. See, I don't even know who you are. You've changed so much.
It's only been here a while.
Mr. Lerma, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you have an item by the applicant, Brown Homes. They have applied and are requesting approval of the preliminary plat for property that's located quarter of a mile on the southwest corner of 4 North, 1 West. Property is comprised of 3 separate lots. Together, they make up roughly 89.9 acres. As you see here in this map, the characteristic of the area is that of medium density residential and low density residential to the north, with Appaloosa Meadows to the east, Chino Lakes to the south and to the west, and the Windmill House to the north. Here you just have the general information of the property. Again, the property is the project is comprised of 3 separate properties. Together make up 89.9 acres. Zoning classification on 3 properties is single-family residential, 1 acre minimum. Has a general plan land use designation of medium density residential, 2 acres or less. The properties are currently vacant. Just a brief history of the parcel. Some council members might remember this project. It went before council back in April of 2005 for the final plat approval of Heritage Point. At that point, the project consisted of 75 one-acre lots and approximately 90 acres. That final plat was approved by council. The plat was never recorded, and subsequently the plat expired. So the applicant is back at square one and is requesting approval of the preliminary plat. Here's just some general details about the project. As stated before, the project consists of 75 separate 1-acre lots developed in 4 different phases. There's 5 drainage tracks, 1 right-of-way track. Minimum lot size of the lots are 1 acre. Maximum lot size 1.15 acres. Average lot size 1 acre. Total right-of-way dedication approximately 11 acres. Total open space make up 2.8 acres or 3.19%. There is a secondary access on Talia Place. Here is roughly conceptual, since the preliminary plat, we're still talking about conceptually where the road alignment is going to be at and the property lines are going to be located at. So as you can see here, this is the preliminary plat, or what makes up the preliminary plat within 4 phases. Main axis is along 4 North. A secondary axis, as stated before, will have a connection on Talia Place over here to the east of the property. Give me just a minute. So here is a map just to indicate where the tracks are at, the drainage tracks. You can see them here. North is pointing to the west. 4 North will be over here, Talia Place over here. And we're trying to arrange where we're at. Here's the drainage tracks here and here. Along here, the property lines, and over here. Typically what we're looking at during the preliminary plat is just making sure that all lots meet development standards. As stated before, the property or the properties have a zoning classification of the SR1 zoning district. All lots at this point conceptually do meet the 1 acre minimum, with exception of lot 1, 2, 13, 16, 17, and 18. All lots meet the development requirement of 100 feet lot frontage. Since the applicant is not requesting a planned area development or PAD overlay to deviate from the development standards, these lots that are highlighted are gonna have to be modified to meet that 100-foot lot frontage. The application went before Planning and Zoning on August 6th. During said meeting, there was some residents that had questions about the development. They wanted to know if the houses that the Heritage Point development was proposing were gonna be 2 stories. The applicant stated that there would be a single story with an RV garage. Other than that, they wanted to know about timelines and what the next meeting dates would be. Staff indicated that the project will go through council tonight. Next step will be what we call a subdivision technical review that's done internally through staff review and approval. At that point, the applicant will be meeting with mostly Public Works. And then after that approval process, they will come back to request approval of the final plat. And that'll be the last step within the process. So at that meeting in August, staff recommended that Planning and Zoning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to Town Council with the following stipulations or conditions. Condition number 1, and obviously these conditions needed to be met before the item went before council. Condition number 1, that the preliminary plat show right-of-way dedication of 50 feet from the center line on Road 4 North. Originally, the preliminary plat was only showing 25 feet of dedication. Since then, that condition has been met by the applicant. Condition number 2 is just stating that the corners of the lots need to meet a 35-foot radius on main arterials and a 25-foot radius on local streets. That condition has also been met. Condition number 3 deals with storm runoff, indicating 10-year, 50-year, and 100-year runoff. And since then, that condition has been met. Condition number 4 is just typically within the plot plan. It indicates typical setbacks. We needed the applicant to show not only interior lots, but also corner lots and the setbacks on these lots. Since then, the preliminary plan has been modified and all these 4 conditions have been met. So the recommendation has been modified. Staff and Planning and Zoning Commission are forwarding a recommendation of approval to Town Council to approve a Heritage Point preliminary plat. Applicant is here. If council have any questions for them or of myself.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
I don't have any.
Questions?
No.
I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the Heritage Point preliminary plat, subdividing approximately 89.9 acres into 75 1-acre lots develop it in 4 phases.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mayor and council, if you wanted those conditions, I would throw that in the motion just with those conditions as stated, just so it's clear that those conditions are a part of it.
Okay, we'll modify that, to add the conditions.
So, just to clarify, again, all these 4 conditions that were stipulated have been met by the applicant, so
Okay.
these conditions no longer
Oh,
exist.
okay, then you're fine. If they've already accomplished them, I didn't quite understand. If they're all met, then your motion's fine as is. Thank you.
That voice up there is our attorney in Phoenix, so don't be shocked.
So, second, so,
No, just go ahead. It's already been covered.
did they second it?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, let's move on to B. Consideration of possible action to award a construction contract to Sunland Asphalt in an amount not to exceed $666,834.17 for the FY 2020 street reconstruction project. Mr. Marbury.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, once again. Let me try and get see if I can work this one without that. I think it's on now, so. All right, today I want to present the proposed FY 20 street maintenance program. This has been discussed and run through Roads and Streets Committee based off their recommendations. This is our proposal for the construction project for this year. I'll go through them one by one if I could, just to refresh folks' memories. We may have discussed these in some study sessions as well. The first project is Road 1 North between Highway 89 and Road 1 East. It's actually 4 inches of asphalt going on there based on geotechnical engineers' recommendations. With some pulverization and added base, the cost is $165,000. The next road is Reed Road between North and Center Street. Again, this one's 3 inches of hot mix asphalt based on geotech engineers' recommendations with some pulverization and added base. That cost is $259,315. The next road is Horizon Way between Butterfield and Palomino to pulverize and add 3 inches of asphalt on that. There's some apartments nearby and Casa Grande restaurant to the south for reference of location. That cost is just under $30,000. Pepper Tree Place is a road along Chino Meadows 2, runs from Juniper on the south to Road 2 North on the north. You may have noticed a culvert that Town Crews installed recently at 2 North and Pepper Tree. So this would be rebuilding Pepper Tree Place and also some additional work on 2 North to get some of the water ponding issues taken care of on 2 North right there at that little dogleg jog. We need to regrade the asphalt to the north so we stop ponding water on the south side and losing our pavement as such. That's about 86,418.90 is the estimate on that. Paving Jerome Junction, which would complete the project left off at the end of the EDA grant that was done a couple years ago. And Town Crews, this road used to have a pretty good jog in it, and some of the property from years and years ago was inadvertently not on town right away. So we, Town Crews, realigned that road and based it out so the contractor would come in and pave that road. And also a little bit on Gavin Court tie-in where we had to tear out that pavement to redo the intersection there and realign that. So there's no pulverization or base needed on this, just paving. So we'll just tighten it up, pave it, and raise manholes. The contractor also added in a $17,000 traffic control allowance for anything we may need on there. The total project cost is $666,000. $666,834.17. Utilizing a cooperative contract from the town of Buckeye. or city. It's from Buckeye. And same one we used last year. The funding would come from multiple sources, most of it HERF. There's also CIP funds that were in the budget for Jerome Junction, and some extra HERF that came in from the state, the 198,000. So any questions?
Yeah, go back to the second one, but that one, you said 3 inches.
I had a typo on this slide. It's actually 3 inches of
It's 3
asphalt.
inches instead
All
of
of the
2.
asphalt's 3 inches, except for Road 1 North is 4,
Okay.
because the
I
soil
want to
was
clarify that if
little
we
bit
have
worse.
a motion to approve, then we need
I
okay.
think is the motion is probably, let me check.
It's not included, it's just to award the
Yeah, the motion I think is just to award in the,
Essentially the money, but I want to clarify that, so that's okay. Thank you.
and the backup date is correct. It was just my slide that was wrong.
Okay. Question?
Yeah, I got, when you're on Pepper Tree and to the north, are you gonna work on that dog leg, or do you just kind of straighten that out a little bit? Or
We're
we can't
gonna-
do that?
Good question. We're going to try and soften that a little bit. The ultimate solution would be to, when Road 2 eventually widens out to 3 lanes, it'll probably widen out to the south, and then we would carry that lane,
Straight?
and that dog leg would go away, at least for the folks going towards Bright Star.
Okay.
And then there'd be a little bit of a taper or jog, the folks leaving Bright Star.
All right, we're working there. I didn't know if we could take care of that or not. It'd be nice.
Yeah, but we discussed it, and we'll try and soften it a little bit. It won't go away completely, but I think once that road gets widened out to where it should be and the edge is taken care of, it'll be a lot less treacherous for the traveling public through there.
Thank you.
I have a question. The very first slide, I believe, it showed, okay, see that intersection, that Road 1 North and 89, the street light, which I have been a big advocate for. It's not on this signal plan for fall or winter of 2021.
Yes.
That's an ADOT
That's
project.
an ADOT project.
Easy.
All right.
Dang. I know that we approved funds for the traffic study, for the signal study. All of that has been done, and I can actually look forward to this and say it's coming.
Yes, the current schedule for that project, it's about 95% complete with design. And the ADOT schedule for that, they hope to bid that out in June of next year, with construction being towards the fall. Our project, we do have those plans and know the limits of that project, and our project will start where that project stops.
Thank you.
My question is more of in our process here. We utilize cooperative purchase agreements quite a bit, and like say on an earlier item tonight, we purchased a pickup using that same process at $44,000. Well, we're looking at $666,000. What is the price break to where we want to possibly go out to bid, or what is the expense of going out to bid versus, just using the cooperative purchase agreement? Because again, we're bringing in a company from out of town, so our money's leaving the area completely. How do you decide to go one way or the other?
Well, the main thing would be time. If we went to a competitive bid, we'd have to, number one, create design plans, so there's that engineering cost involved, which is sometimes up to 25%. And then about a 3 to 4 month advertising and bidding process. But one example I can give you is we had a quote to actually join in on another job we were working on Jerome Junction from another contractor, and that price came in at $92,000. So the $67,000 is a pretty good number compared to some of the recent bids we got that we did go out to competitive bid for. And we do compare those to some of our recent bids, and that's where we think we're getting our money's worth, and we look at them on a case-by-case basis.
I don't understand your engineering portion of that answer, why you would for one and not for another. But, so you are doing some comparative shopping off of some other prices, which would then lead you to utilizing the cooperative purchase agreement.
Correct, and this
Okay.
being a job order contract, the contractor's assuming the risk for not having the set plans like you would have on a competitive bid. So that's where sometimes you can get by with not as detailed of plans because they're assuming that risk through the job order contracting process.
Okay, and these are fixed prices as far as their bids?
Yes, they're guaranteed maximum prices.
Perfect, thank you, Frank.
And with a warranty of some sort?
I've got the contract here. I'm typically we have at least a year warranty, but I would have to refer, since this is a Buckeye contract, we'd have to refer to that contract language.
Probably have the same. Okay. Any other questions on this side?
No questions, but state contractor law is a 2-year warranty.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, that answers that. Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna,
I'll make a motion, we award construction contract to Sunland Asphalt in the amount of not to exceed $666, I wish you worked on that number,
Me too.
$1,834.17 for the fiscal year 2020 street reconstruction projects.
we have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and several seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion and carried. Let's go on to item C. Consideration possible action to approve professional services agreement between the town of Chino Valley and Civil Tech Engineering in the amount not to exceed $36,500 for research and planning relating to submitting a wayfinding sign plan with ADOT. Ms. Tidybeck, there you are.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. Okay, so we'll just kind of start off with the definition. Wayfinding guide signs are used to aid travelers and locals in identifying and locating their travel destinations with guidance to major civic, cultural, visitor, and recreational destinations within a specified region. Okay, so here's an example of what they look like. You can choose to have your town logo at the top or not, and we are choosing to do so. How do I move her? There we go. So why wayfinding is important to economic development. So one of the things it does is it develops a town identity or a brand. It navigates visitors and locals through public and private spaces and maximizes that experience by explaining the environment ahead. A vital tool of economic development. There's a net benefit to shared approach to attracting business and capturing resident and tourist dollars. And lastly, a high-functioning wayfinding system makes the environment legible and enhances the visitor's experience as it increases their comfort, builds their confidence, and encourages them to discover unique events, attractions, and destinations on the town. So here's another example of kind of, it's not part of wayfinding, but it's added to it so that we have something when you're coming in and out of town. Adopt ADOT program and why Civil Tech. Wayfinding signs are installed on ADOT highways via an encroachment permit. Civil Tech will design where the signs are permitted to be placed and work directly with ADOT to gain approval of the plan. The plan will include a detailed map of proposed locations, engineering standards, graphical representations of sign formats, detailed information on sign design, color, sizes, spacing, and other requirements. ADOT details for foundation and posts and enhancement markers. So the enhancement marker is the logo that goes on top of the sign. And Civil Tech will perform all the research and data collection. Let's see. So right now we're proposing 14 sign locations, so 7 in one direction and 7 in the other direction. And I just kind of laid out here approximately where they will be. Civil Tech will be more of the one to place exactly according to ADOT standards. And any input on this is appreciated. So right when you're coming into town, we would put a welcome to Chino Valley with a population elevation and the year it was found in. Here at Outer Loop, there would be a sign to point towards Williamson Valley and the Peavine Trail. There's a Peavine Trail little wayfinding sign over here. The third one would direct them to Town Hall, and the fourth would be directing them to Chino Valley Recreation Complex, the community center / aquatic center, and the gun range. So what it's doing is it's pointing out major destination places, civic buildings, historical attractions. So at Road 3 North, a directional signs to the Municipal Center, Library, and Memory Park. And at Road 4 North, Old Home Manor, the winery that nobody in town apparently knows we have, and Yavapai College. It's not a joke. I put a Facebook post up this is what I do for social media every once in a while for a business. I don't know if there was probably about 60 people. She got 3 appointments. I've lived here for 3 years and I don't know we have a winery. So it's an example of why these kind of signs are important. 7 would be another, as you're coming in, welcome to Chino Valley, and then an historic attraction sign for Del Rio. Short and sweet. Any questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, but the winery, we're gonna denote it, but we're not gonna denote any other businesses that are off the highway?
Well, that would be an attraction, so you're not commercializing the name. So if there's any other attractions that would be good to add, I would love to hear them. So
I don't understand what you mean by attraction. It's a business, right?
it is. So attraction meaning it's like an agricultural thing. If they're growing grapes there, it's a winery. So I'm not actually advertising the business.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time splitting that hair. You know what I mean? It's a
Sure.
business making money off the public, to where if we're doing that, shouldn't we do other businesses? You understand? Why not do, I can't think of anything
Yeah,
right
give me an
now.
example.
Like El Charro Norte, for example, or the windmill, what's it called? Windmill Farms, for
Now,
example.
farm we couldn't do El Charro Norte. It's because it's an attraction, because it's a farm. Same with growing grapes. It would be considered an attraction. I know it's hard to explain. It was hard for me to wrap my head around.
It's
as
hard for
well.
me that we're not showing favoritism to the winery and not the other things.
Okay.
Corey has a question.
Because I know it specifically says major civic, cultural, visitor, and recreational destinations. So my question of this was, what about private business? Now, I think that is actually the reason that this has even come up, that staff in previous study sessions has requested. Is there a way that we can direct people from the highway to our businesses that are off highway? This expense of $36,500 for the study alone, for the town to come up with $36,000 for this, that's over $900,000 worth of goods that need to be sold to offset that cost. I don't see any of these examples here that are going to bring in that type of revenue to even justify the engineering of this project. And again, I think the whole purpose that we went down this road originally was a way that we can get ADOT to allow us to put up some way signs, but it was to our local businesses.
So that would be,
and not for these.
yeah, that would be a little bit of a different project. This naturally will guide people to different locations. So for an example, if someone doesn't, is trying to get to the college, or they're trying to get to Old Home Manor, that signage will take them right by El Charro Norte. So this will get people off the highway and into our roads and streets so they can discover the businesses. The other, something happened in Chandler, I don't know what it was a lawsuit, and perhaps the attorney can reference this, where we cannot you cannot advertise commercial businesses anymore.
Well,
I
I don't know about that, because I can drive up and down the interstate and
Yep.
I can look over and see Wendy's next exit. So
Yep.
that's exactly what we were looking to try to get
That's-
ADOT to allow us to do within our town.
And I can inquire about that. I don't know if some of those are grandfathered or what, but maybe the attorney can speak to that.
Yes, Mayor and Council. I don't know exactly what happened in Chandler, so I'd have to look into that if you want more specifics. But in general, I know ADOT prohibits advertising for specific businesses. So you're not going to, there might be restrictions, and I'd have to go through the rules closer, which we could do if you're interested, but you're not going to necessarily put a business name on it. But like staff was saying, attractions are different. If you're driving into Sedona, there's, or different places, you'll see signs about downtown areas, and those have an economic development impact. So winery might be perfectly acceptable. But there is a very fine line between wayfinding, civic, cultural, and these kind of destinations, and between one individual business being having a sign approved by ADOT. So I know generally the legal standards and issues there. In terms of how their specific rules go, I don't know. I'd have to report back if you want more information on the legal prohibition.
See, go, Lonnie, and then I'll go.
Well, I'm not here to beat up on you, but
Go for it. Turn your mic on.
Mike, oh, it's on.
Oh, okay.
Mike, is it working? Yes. Yeah, okay. I just look at the number, and what I'm wondering is, what are we paying these people to design? We already know where we want the signs. ADOT's got to have rules of how big they can be that we could find out. So why is this something we can't do internally?
Well, first, I think time is one of them. I don't know that, Frank and his crew would have time to do this. And there's a lot more to it than just that, because there's other signs along Highway 89 that they have to be addressed, where they're allowed to be in the right-of-ways, how many feet, and it takes a lot of time for him to do that study and all the research that goes behind it. Then it's also 2 meetings with ADOT directly, which would be the first go-around of presenting it to them, and then they make their comments, and then he would have to go back and do any of the fixes, present it to us again. So there's quite a bit going into it, and I know it's a very out-of-the-box economic development project, but it really does have an impact, and it brands your town, and I think it's important because of that.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the idea of it.
Yeah.
I was just questioning the engineering aspect. So, okay,
Does
thank you.
that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I'd like to echo what Corey said about when you're driving down the interstate and you come up to an exit, and there's attractions at that exit, and then there's food, and then they tell you all the food places that are there, and then there's gas, and it tells you it's Texaco and all that. So I don't get where they can't why they're saying we can't do that here.
It's a different project than wayfinding, and I think what that is now, and don't quote me, but what I believe is now businesses have to go in together and go to ADOT on their own accord and buy the space in it.
I think we're getting off the subject.
You want to hear from staff?
Well, but
Do you know something, Frank?
that's not what.
Frank, you have
that's not what
something?
we're here to
Please
decide
step up.
is Businesses.
If I can just maybe back up Maggie, that is, from what I understand, those product placements or business placements mostly along the interstate are through a contract with ADOT that they have specific to ADOT. So those businesses do pay ADOT for that, and it's through ADOT. But I'm not familiar with how that works on non-interstate roads. But I know it's specifically managed through ADOT.
Do you think it's only for interstates?
It might have some other implications because I did in another jurisdiction I worked at, they started putting them up on a local road that they thought was a highway, and we made them take them down. But they do call those wayfinding, I think, as well. But you don't get your restaurant up there if you don't pay ADOT. I know that. So.
Which I think is fine if we wanted to even help coordinate that, but I think the question is, can we or can we not?
Yeah, we can.
And so if a business is interested, would we be able to include them? So I think maybe we need to ask that question
We
and
could
then
contact ADOT
bring
and get
them
the
back.
specifics of how that works. Definitely.
I think we need to ask that question maybe from ADOT or from Civil Tech and see, and that
Well,
might.
why don't we move this to the next meeting in October and do some more research so we have some more information?
And maybe we can discuss it at the study session. next
Study
week.
session.
And I
Yeah.
would say bring in some cost estimates of what it's actually, if it's costing this much just to do the study, what's it actually gonna cost to put the signs up? And if what Frank is saying is true, what's ADOT gonna charge us if there is a charge? So,
Okay, additional charges.
So let's move this forward to the study session in October. Is that where you want to move it to?
I thought next week. You know? No?
Yes,
Well,
whenever.
we-
I just want
Is that
some more
quick?
information.
October or next week? October?
Annie?
That's up to Maggie.
Next week
She-
is
Is that all right?
How long do you need?
I will be out of town next week, but I was gonna video conference in, but it's probably more appropriate for the next one so that I can get the answers to your
October, okay.
questions.
I'll make a motion that we move item 7C to the study session in October.
The study session or the council meeting?
Study, right? Study?
Study session.
Okay, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go on to item D. Consideration possible action to adopt resolution number 2019-1142, vacating, abandoning, and terminating the town's interest in the 50-foot roadway easement known as Yavapai County Assessors Partial Number 800-13034F, which is perpendicular to Granite Creek Lane. Say that quickly. Okay. Frank?
Mayor and council, this item, somehow this property was a lot split that was to be an easement with a perpetual offer of dedication, and at the county level somehow got recorded as right-of-way. So what we're trying to do here is have a council action we can give to the county to say, no, this is not right-of-way. The property owners have a signed ingress egress utility easement that covers that, which is a standard public way easement. And by passing this resolution, it would clear that up to clarify that that is the private property with an easement, not town right of way. There's no improvements on it whatsoever.
Questions?
At one time, there was talk of this area being a possible placement for a sewer line.
This particular easement,
I believe so, down along Granite Creek Lane. Am I?
we're not talking Granite Creek Lane, we're talking off of Granite Creek Lane.
Here's one east, there's Granite. It's in
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So
I'm
there,
sorry. I'm in the wrong place.
to maybe clarify, there is portions of the Granite Creek Lane alignment do have maybe 25 feet of right-of-way. It's not continuous, but this is not the Granite Creek right-of-way. We wouldn't be abandoning that. It's one that came off of Granite Creek.
Okay, I see that now. Thank you.
Anybody else on this side? This side?
And homeowners are fully aware of this, and they,
Yes, and they signed the easement.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2019-1142, vacating, abandoning, and terminating the town's interest in the 50-foot roadway easement known as Yavapai County's Assessor Partial Number 800-13034F, which is perpendicular to Granite Creek Lane.
Second?
Second.
I have motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion, we go to executive session.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned to executive session. And we will take.
Thank you, Jamie. You're just picking it back from me. But my wife.
We didn't wanna make you wait too long.
You're not the only one. Oh, if there's something down there you picked up, let me know and I'll grab it.
You already, is Kathy ready?
Just give her a couple minutes.
They're not ready.
He can hear us.
Oh, wow, even Matt left.
We are resuming item. You ready? We are resuming item 8A. I need to turn my speaker on. Again, we're resuming item 8A. We are out of executive session. And I need a motion to, Lon,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all.